Hey guys, welcome back. Happy New Year, and thanks for tuning in to my review of the Mass Drop and Gavko Knives collaboration here in my hand. This is the Gavko Thresher, a beautiful knife by Michael Gavko of Gavko Knives. This guy went on kind of a discount sale over Black Friday this past Thanksgiving, and I had to snatch it up. It's still available, just not for the price it used to be available for. And I'm not going to mention what that price was because it'll just depress you. The current price is like $190, and it's still well worth it, guys. So head over to Mass Drop, or Drop as they're now called, and check this knife out if you're interested. By the way, this is not a collaboration. This video is not a collaboration between me and Mass Drop or me and Mike. I bought this completely independently of either of them because I have been interested in and desirous to pick up a Gavko knife for a very long time. Let's see. So Mike Gavko, those of you who don't know, started off as a guy here on YouTube who reviewed some knives, customized some factory-produced knives, and decided to start making some of his own. He made fixed blades originally, ended up selling some of them to some audience members who appreciated what he was doing, and then over time, eventually got into folders, and just his business just kind of skyrocketed from there, as far as I understand it, and he's done very, very well ever since. And so he still makes these handmade custom designs, all his designs, and sells them. They're extremely custom as far as the materials and as far as the patterns and the designs and the way he sort of finishes them. Very custom and very cool. You can follow him over there on Instagram to see the stuff he's currently working on. If you think you might want to pick up one of his customs, you're looking at spending over $800, maybe over $1,000, depending on what it is. And he's got a number of different models there and types that he and patterns that he kind of designs and builds. But they're all beautiful, and I've wanted to get one for a long time. But again, price range is pretty high up there. So I usually don't think about pulling the trigger. But when Mass Drop and Gavko collaborated on this guy for this knife that's actually in a very affordable range, yeah, I decided I got to get myself one. So again, this one's about $190 on Mass Drop right now, or Drop as they're currently called, and you can still get it. Now, it comes in a bunch of varieties. We're going to talk all about my experience and all that stuff. We're going to compare this knife to a bunch of other knives, the whole yada yada, except that I don't have any review footage, or I should say testing footage to show you guys. I've just kind of like cut down on that a lot, but you'll have to trust me. This has been like the Christmas break holiday knife. I've used it to cut open so many packages, cut down so many boxes. It looks nice and clean, so you can't hardly even tell, but I have been using this quite a lot, carrying it quite a lot since I got it. Lots to talk about in that regard, but let's get to just a few more details on the knife. So as I said before, Drop still currently has them, and you can get them in a couple different handle patterns, as well as blade finishes, as well as colors. So the color you see right here is the aqua color, and it's sort of, I hope it's coming through pretty well in camera, but it's a very kind of an aqua green, and this handle pattern texture is called the Big Eye. He names all of his knives and his sort of patterns and whatevers after sharks and fishes and general, aquatic kind of stuff, because he's a Florida guy, and that's just kind of his thing. That's what he kind of picked up on. You notice the thumb studs there kind of intended, they're on both sides. They're kind of intended to sort of represent the eye of the shark, if you will. Last thing before I move on to some of the other colors, the pocket clip, as you see here, is set for tip up carry right hand. It cannot be swapped over to the left side. The reason why is they also make a left-handed version of the knife with the lock over there, in which case the pocket clip will be over there. So lefties, there is a full-on left-handed version of this knife. So no, you can't swap the pocket clip, but left-handers, you can buy the left-handed version. Cool? All right, so back to colors. This is the aqua, and this is the Big Eye texture. There's also the pelagic, I can't remember how you say it. The other texture, which is interesting looking, and then the common, which is basically just, non-milled out, just very flat and standard looking. But they all have the same sort of backstrap to them, and then the colors go from aqua to sand, which is a very cool looking, almost a goldish, stonewash kind of a look to it. This one's stonewashed as well, but very cool looking. And then there's the shark skin color, which is basically a raw titanium, I think. It's not really anodized, I don't think, but it's also stonewashed. And in that case, if you get the shark skin version of it, then the blade is also stonewashed. However, with the aqua and the sand, they all come with this satin blade, which is just gorgeous. It is really beautifully done. So, who built these knives if not Gavko, and how are they so low priced if his normal knives go for $800,000 and up from there? Again, I think you saw there on the blade, S35 VN is the steel. And so Massdrop is producing it with, producing this design from Gavko, and the production is actually being carried out by, or manufactured by We Knives of China. So it's being built in China, it's being produced in China. We Knives, as some of you guys know, produces exceptionally high quality knives for any country, but particularly for China. They are really, really good. They're taking the notion of the cheap Chinese knife and just throwing it out the window. They make very, very nice knives. And so, yes, this is produced in China, but it's manufactured by somebody who really cares about making excellent knives. And, I visited We Knives at SHOT Show. I've handled a lot of their knives. I can't believe I don't have any of their knives. I guess I do kind of have one of their knives now. But I still haven't bought a We branded knife. I don't know why, but their stuff is amazing. And I highly, highly recommend it. So, manufactured by We Knives, produced by Massdrop, designed by Michael Gavko. S35 VN, I told you that already, the blade profile. They call it sort of a clip point Bowie. I would say this is sort of related to maybe the Bowie styles that SOG produces, but it's really sort of its own modified Bowie knife. And this sweeping, non-stop curve of an edge is just so cool, and it reminds me of something like this one right here from Spyderco, the Paramilitary 2, which has a very similar profile in that it's just constantly sweeping, constantly curved. There's really no portion of it that just goes flat out and then curves up. There's nothing like that. It's just kind of a constant, but this is really, really pronounced in that way, a constant belly, reaching up to a distal tapered tip that is extremely fine. I don't know if I can get that properly displayed in camera, but really it is a spectacular tip on it, and it's going to do some excellent puncturing and just general cutting. It's delicate. It's going to be delicate, but if you're not prying with it, it won't be a problem. I try not to ever pry anything with a knife. I've generally got a multi-tool handy, and I use that to do harder, rougher work. But the knives, I love it when I can get an almost leak-like tip here, and that is just fantastic. So, in my opinion, the blade shape is really, really good looking. And when I saw this in their photos, I looked at it and thought, my, that is quite a broad blade compared to the handle. I bet it's going to be kind of heavy out here and a little lighter back here, and maybe the balance is going to be off. And I was a little concerned, but guess what? Not at all, dude. That is so well balanced. It is balanced so that the handle is really where all the weight is, and because that is ground from such a high point, we just have very little, even though it's so broad, we have very little actual material out there. And again, the distal tapering means that you've got a very lightweight blade on it that just feels really quick in your hand. And it's, like I said, broad and gets a lot done. It's a lot of actual cutting surface, but it feels so light in your hand. How heavy is the knife altogether? Let's get the scale out and show you that. I was kind of surprised when I saw the advertised weight, and 4.9 ounces, 4.8, 4.9, somewhere in that neighborhood. I was kind of shocked by that. If we look at the Paramilitary 2, at 3.7, a full ounce lighter. If we look at, for reference here, we've got the Benchmade Griptilian in G10, 4.2 ounces. Another one for reference, we've got the Steel Wheel Tasso here, 4.1 ounces. I mean, everything else I've got here to show you, and I'll show you those knives some more here in a minute, everything else is considerably lighter than this, but something about the way that this is designed, assembled, built, the materials, etc., feels really light and quick in your hand. And it just doesn't feel like a 5 ounce, almost 5 ounce knife in my pocket. So, you know, I'm liking it. I'm liking the weight. I'm liking everything about it at this point. Full titanium on the handles. That's 6AL4V titanium. All anodized, as you see there. Frame lock, if I didn't mention it already, but you can kind of tell that. And also, interesting to see, it's got that hardened steel lock bar insert, which makes it so that, wow, don't drop the knife or cut yourself, gosh. Makes it so that the titanium lock here is actually not in contact with the hardened steel. It's instead hardened steel against hardened steel, which means a more even wear and just generally a longer life knife. That's what you're gonna have there. And also, I thought this is a very cool, very efficient design here. They've also made it so that that lock bar insert is also an over travel stop. If I can just kind of pull it back this way, you see that it stops there on the titanium frame. You see there's that little bitty lip right there, and the lock bar insert stops there. So that is a built-in over travel stop. Very cool. We've also got, you can just barely see the, I'll try to hold this down here so you can see it. The ceramic detent there. It's also got ceramic cage bearing pivot, hardened steel washers so they don't wear down the titanium frame. Just very well thought out design, very thorough in everything that they did here. So very, very cool. I'm just totally impressed with this knife if you haven't figured it out yet. Any other specs you want to consider? It's a 0.5 inch wide handle there, blade length of 3.6, handle length of 4.5, overall length of 8. Let's see, yeah, this one, you know, I think the weights vary depending on which one you buy because more titanium might be milled out on this one versus that one. And this one is, the Big Eye is 4.8, 4.9. The pelagic is a little bit, like a 0.1 ounce lighter, and then the common is 0.2 ounces heavier. 5.1 ounces is what it's supposed to be. It also comes with this cool pouch from Massdrop and this sweet Gavko branded microfiber cloth. So you want to take awesome care of your $200 knife, $100, $90 knife. You can do that. Zipper it up. Don't let it roll around in the drawer and get dinged up by your other knives. Or do like I do. I just kind of throw them all in a box or in a drawer together, and they slowly kind of wear up against each other. That's just my style, but awesome, awesome knife. Let me tell you about some of the reasons I'm so impressed with this and how my experience has been in carrying and using it. First off, for general cutting. Oh, there's the, let me go through that first. That's the deployment. Couple things to note on it. You don't want to push straight up. I'm not getting good deployment that way. You want to give it kind of an outward push. You do a nice outward push, it feels very smooth, at least on mine. Could be that the detent is a little strong on mine, so that could be part of it. I've seen others, the action may be a little bit faster, but I'm not sure. This one will probably break in a little more over time, but I'm totally happy with it. The lockup, perfect, side to side, front to back is fantastic. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's got a great, you know, lock bar as well as the ceramic ball bearing pivot, which, you know, anytime you can get ball bearing pivots, they're just, they create such nice smooth action, but also really tight lockup. So the blade shape just lends itself, and that super high flat ground lends itself to some fantastic slicing. Great edge on it, and it has retained some very good sliceability and an edge on it. And came razor, hair popping sharp. I mean, it was just shaving hair right off my hand, straight out of the box. So I was uber impressed with that. And then just sort of inspecting it top to bottom, side to side, looking for it, looking for consistency, looking for, you know, how things were ground and how things were finished. Every single stinking corner of this thing looks really good. So it's a fantastic cutter. The blade shape, again, the geometry, the edge, fantastic. It just cuts through your boxes, it cuts through your packaging, it cuts through whatever you need so easily and so well. Again, that super fine point just stabs through stuff. So that's really great. Again, no issues blade-wise, and the edge just came fantastic. And then as far as the handle, it's got just enough of a choil there for the finger to feel really nice in place. But it doesn't, doesn't stab you, it doesn't feel uncomfortable, it doesn't kind of get too short or anything like that. It's just right. And then again, the rest of the handle and the way this sweeps down, your hand just kind of locks in there. It just feels really, really good. If there were one thing I wanted to criticize, and this is very much something that I'd be nitpicking, I would say that the sharp corners, there are a few sharp corners on it. So right here, right there, you can see are kind of sharp. And then down here at the bottom, right there, and right there. Again, if I'm gonna nitpick it. Having carried this quite a bit, using it as an EDC knife, I don't feel like I'm poking myself on those sharp corners, and I don't feel like they interfere as I'm doing any kind of cutting. Every once in a while I'll feel it and I'll see that it's there, but it's not an issue at all. It's just, one of those things, if I have to nitpick something, I guess I'll nitpick that. I guess one other thing I'll say is I really hope that Massdrop and Gavko do another collaboration after this, because I would love to see his Tiger, his Leopard, his Mako, his Nurse, and some of his mix and match one-offs. I'd love to see some of those other ones done in a more production style that we can get into for under $200. I would love to see, I'd love to have the whole line of Gavko knives done in, again, something similar to this. And I hope something like that happens sometime. Who knows? Let's compare this very quickly to a couple of other excellent knives. And for those of you guys that don't want to see the Benchmade, sorry, it's a very significant design. Mel Pardue is a very significant designer. We need to put that Benchmade on the table today. And that's how it looks compared to the 20CV version of the standard Benchmade Griptilian. This one coming in at, I want to say, is it 160, 170, somewhere in that range. The exact number is escaping me right now. Then there's the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. We showed that briefly a little bit ago. I think they make they do make left-handed paramilitary 2s, I believe. I'm pretty positive on that. But, that thing has got a 4-way repositionable pocket clip as well on it. And this one is S35VN steel, same as that. If I didn't mention it already, I think I did mention the steel type. And price on this guy, I think, is $155, $160. Here's another one that I think is also a great buy. You get tons for your money, and that's the Steel Wheel Tasso. Is it the sexiest knife? Maybe not. Is it the fastest deploying? Maybe not, but dang, I tell you, M390 in this tiny little, this relatively inexpensive package. We're talking, I think, sub 170. I'll have it on screen maybe. I'll definitely have links to everything if I don't have all the numbers and details on screen. But again, it's definitely kind of right in that range where you're looking at sort of these higher end sub 200 knives, or, really nice sub 200 knives. And the Gavko Thresher from Gavko and Massdrop absolutely stands toe to toe with them. And in my opinion, knocks some of them out of the park. It's just gorgeous. It's by a Slovakian-American designer, Mike Gavko, who's just an extremely cool dude and has, again, some awesome philosophy in regards to how to make great folding EDC knives. And I'm a huge fan, and I'm so glad I was able to get this guy. So head over to Massdrop, also called Drop nowadays, if you're looking to pick one of these up. I'm the Late Boy Scout, telling you, as always, don't cut yourself.